It's Chelsea and Yale, which means it must be time for another Streaming Wars, the show that helps you wade through an endless sea of streaming content. And today we've got a very special guest joining us.
Yes, we have someone here joining us to talk about Amazon Prime Video. He is the host of All My Movies and the charting king himself, Dan Murrell. Welcome, Dan.
Hello, it's my pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited for you to join us as we talk about Amazon, because I know that you're the numbers guy. You know all the numbers. And I feel like when it comes to Amazon, that's the big thing.
They love numbers. They love logistics. They love all kinds of things over at Amazon. So we'll try to break it down a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Chelsea, you're a big Amazon person. Tell us everything people might not know about Amazon.
I mean, how many days do we have? No. Yeah, well, so Amazon's an interesting streaming service. So like we've got our Apple TV Plus or Disney Plus and HBO Max, which are very straightforward. You pay this price, you get a streaming service. But Amazon, you get way more. This is like, I never subscribed to Amazon's Prime Video. I was a Prime member and I did it for free shipping. And now I have the benefit of Prime Video, which I think is pretty interesting. But to be more specific, the service kind of started as Amazon Unbox in September of 2006. In 2008, they renamed, it became Amazon Video on Demand. And then a few years after that, in 2011, we finally got Amazon Instant Video. These are all fancy names for what we now have as Amazon Prime Video. I think everyone refers to it as something else, and most people just say Amazon.
Yeah, do you even remember when you first started watching Amazon, Dan? Did you start and be like, I'm doing this specific?
No, I don't even remember when I still watch Amazon. It blends so much into the fabric, into the network of so much that's going on. I do have to say, of all the streaming services that there are, I probably use Amazon the least. But it's also because that's not their strategy. I was an Amazon Prime member a long time before I could watch, Top Gun or whatever on there because I wanted free shipping. So they're in a very specific and unique position when it comes to the streaming services because video is not necessarily their main push. It's one of many things that they're doing. And even in a company as diversified as AT&T with Warner Brothers, you still have like the entertainment division and a streaming service that's there just to be a video streaming service. With Prime Video, it's one arm of what they're trying to do with that part of the company. So Amazon is a very different, it's a horse of a different color in this race.
Yeah, I don't even have Amazon Prime. My roommate has Amazon Prime, and my parents have Amazon Prime, and therefore I have access to Amazon Prime Video. So it feels very odd, especially when you think about, we've broken down other services and talked about their price point. And for Amazon Prime, you're paying for a membership. It's $120 a year. It's $119, but it's $120 a year. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you do have the option now, which they didn't have originally, of paying monthly as well. So, which ends up being like an extra 15 or 20 bucks a year if you do it that way. But some people can't afford 119 outright. There's also, if you're a student, I believe there's like a student plan for Amazon that's even cheaper. Like, I don't know, honestly, how Amazon makes any money, but yet they make all of the money. Like, their e-commerce is so... I don't know, they're kind of genius in what they're doing. The thing that's really amazing that I love that you said, Dan, was that you don't really go to Amazon because it's not their strategy for video. And it just made me think for a second because they've got great content. Like they have great originals, but they're not dropping stuff in any sort of method that we know. It's not like every Friday you're going to get a new Amazon show, and when things drop, some of us migrate back to Amazon and we watch the thing. And then we go back over to whatever we're doing. And I never really thought about it because I'm like, oh, I do spend time on Amazon. One of the big changes that happened in 2020 was that they started to get all of the theater video on demand stuff, the premium video on demand. And so, I rented Valley Girl and things like that so I could watch these films here in my own home. And I always went to Amazon for that.
And they're making a pivot now with particularly with the Borat sequel, which was a big original for them, and they paid a lot of money for that movie to have the exclusive rights to that. Obviously, with Lord of the Rings, the series on the horizon with them, I think what we're seeing is that they are going to start really putting more money into, because they've always marketed their Prime original shows, but not on the level of a Netflix. And they don't push the streaming service on the same level that you see from HBO Max and the others, Disney Plus. I think what we are seeing now is them pushing to be more of a contender. But again, they don't have to. They have so many other revenue streams that this is just one thing on a list of priorities that is very, very long. But I do think you are going to see in the next couple of years an even more forward-facing thing, because they're putting a lot of money into this Lord of the Rings thing. They're putting a lot of money. They did put a lot of money into Borat, and that's not like a PVOD. You know, you're not paying per view on that. That's something that's on the service if you have it. So it does look like they're going to start trying to drive subscriptions with their originals, which is not necessarily something I don't think was their strategy before. They were great perks. Now they want to try to make this the main feature.
It's interesting.
And it's not just Borat that they're buying up. There's a pattern of a bunch of these theatrical releases, like Coming to America's sequel, that are becoming Amazon exclusives as well.
It's interesting that you say that, you know, the marketing wasn't really important to them. We see that I feel like all of their properties fall into two categories. There's either like global phenomenon or invisible content that they have that you've never heard of, right? So Maisel and The Boys, Upload, Jack Ryan, they're picking up of The Expanse. You know, those are global. There's so many more. Good Omens, Carnival Row, Man in the High Castle. And then there's invisible content, Tales from the Loop, Troop Zero, The Aeronauts, which I know Chelsea is a fan of and we talked about here, but no one had heard of it aside from when Chelsea once said something.
Yeah. Or that series, Very English Scandal. I thought that was great with Hugh Grant. I was like, and it was just a blip on the radar. And they don't seem to care often about whether they're like, because like you said, there's a lot of different revenues that Amazon is focused on. It's just like, we did a cool thing, it's there. And some of these just kind of float by and then win awards, and you still forget about them. Like Manchester by the Sea. Does anyone even remember that one?
Well, they've had, you know, when you look back at their strategy, it seems like to be a very focused strategy, because, you know, there have been some like Jack Ryan and the first couple seasons of Man in the High Castle, I think that was one of their early originals, where you saw a more broad marketing strategy. But their films, it's almost like they're going for prestige for a while. So you had Manchester by the Sea, Maisel also one. Obviously, it's hard to see outside of the FYC billboards, just how they're marketing a show, because with Marvelous vs. Maisel, like that was so much centered towards awards. Now we're seeing, and The Boys is a great example of a show, and I honestly think that's one that they might have stumbled into a little by accident, because there was certainly a lot of marketing behind that first season, but I suspect that Amazon itself may have been a little surprised by how well that show caught on, because the boost between season 1 and season 2, it reminds me of, to a certain degree, what Netflix had on their hands with Stranger Things, where you have a show that you're producing that you think people are going to like, but then it launches so much bigger, and so you put this big push behind it. But I think that is part of that turn and part of that pivot of, I always say, I hate the C word, but content first for Amazon Prime, and not just these kind of micro-targeted, okay, we're going to push this one show, or we're going to do a big award season push. We're starting to see that broader strategy take shape.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the interesting moves that are actually happening too is they're launching Amazon-owned channels into Prime Video, where we now have IMDb TV. IMDb TV provides a commercial-oriented channel, so it's another place for them to make revenue off of as people stream basically like TV Land style shows, Bewitched, Green Acres, I Dream of Jeannie, all of that stuff.
And now we have IMDb TV originals coming in with we have Alex Rider and of course Leverage, which I've talked about like 5 times.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it. I was like, she's gonna bring up Leverage.
I have a bone to pick with
That's leverage.
IMDb and Amazon because they ruined Box Office Mojo. And as a box office guy, I still mourn for what was done to Box Office Mojo. But I guess that was a sacrifice that was made to the altar of corporate progress. I don't know. But yeah, I still twinge a little bit when I hear anything about Amazon and IMDb specifically because they really took the teeth out of a great resource for chart guys like me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
It's okay. It's tough. I'm getting over it, but it's still tough every day.
Yeah, I want to talk for a minute about how it works in the user experience. We've talked a little bit about the interface for other services here. I feel like this one is pretty simple and straightforward, but I get very annoyed when I go to watch a show and it's separated by season. In a way that makes it seem like each season is a different show. That seems counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Their interface and their algorithm is terrible. I hate how Amazon Prime is. None of it makes sense. Like when you scroll through like movies recommended for you, it'll be like 2 movies I know, and then like 4 straight to video terrible sequels, and then it'll get to like the 7th screen, and it'll be like The Godfather. I'm like, hey, maybe put The Godfather up on the 1st screen and Transmorphers 4 on the 4th screen. Like they have so much work to do to make that usable. Of all the streaming services, I think that Amazon Prime's interface is by far the worst.
Yes, and they recently actually updated the app. Like the version that happened before this update was even worse than now. But like you would go to search something and the text on my screen, because I do this through PlayStation, was like 6-point font on my TV. And you can't tell what you're typing, and then the results were super small, and I was just like, who thought this was a good idea? Not to mention, like, at least HBO Max and Netflix have these like curated playlists that pop up of like just added Christmas content you might like. Theirs is sorted into like strange categories of like action adventure, with some of them available on Prime and some of them you have to buy, and you can't tell which ones are the Prime ones easily. And I'm just like, make this easier.
I think that's something you're going to see as they continue to invest more in being a streamer on their own right. Is, you know, with Netflix and HBO Max, for them interface is everything. If they launch that and the interface is terrible, then people are just going to not use their product. I think that the interface on Prime is a relic of the fact when it was a perk for a Prime member that they are now trying to make the showcase.
It's an excellent point. Any final thoughts on Amazon before we move on to streaming roundup?
I will say, as much as the interface frustrates me and whatnot, I think that their choices for original content have been really above the table. Like, I loved Good Omens. I love Maisel like everyone else does. Upload is fantastic. That was one of my favorite picks that came out during this pandemic. I can't wait to see what Carnival Row does. I'm being a Tolkien girl, which that's my number one. I can't wait to see what they do with Lord of the Rings. You know, they've been picking and choosing projects very specifically. And if you haven't given Amazon a chance, like we said, you're paying for free shipping on Prime, basically, and this is just a perk. Why not have this service? Like, my Disney Plus isn't giving me 30% off at Disneyland, you know? Like,
I mean, right now that wouldn't do you much good anyway. I would say that that's probably not the best perk at the moment.
yeah.
Awesome. I think it's time we head into streaming roundup. We got to talk about what's worth watching, the biggest thing this week. I know we've got a couple of big fans with us. Let's talk about The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Episode 1 has dropped. Chelsea, would you like to start with you and your child?
Yes. Okay. So The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1 has started, which means almost every week you can probably expect me to wear something different for Mando and gush about how great this show is. Because we started this season off with Boba Fett. I mean, I'm sorry if you haven't watched it yet. It's been over a week since that episode dropped, guys, so spoiler warning, but like, you started season 2 with Boba Fett. where could this season possibly go? Like, Jon Favreau has to know that he's set the bar here now, and that we've got the rest of the season to top that. Holy cow.
Dan?
I agree. I loved this episode, and I was very skeptical of the idea of Boba Fett coming back. I am intrigued. I will say that. I am intrigued by what they're going to do. I'm still not totally sold. But for me, it was everything prior to that really sold me. And I know that some people are frustrated by what they deem to be the one-off nature of the show. I actually find it refreshing. I like the fact that they mix in these adventure type stories with an overarching storyline. And I loved this when they say they're going back to Tatooine. I was like, oh, again? Like, you went there last...
I was the same place. I was just like, really? They did it well.
But I enjoyed what they did, and there was all kinds of Easter eggs, and naturally, I stayed up super late and did my review of it, and was pointing out what I thought were some really cool Easter eggs, and of course everybody's just like, yeah, well, if you listen to the Knights of the Old Republic, then you know that the Krayt Dragon is just like, well, listen, yes, but okay, but I don't, and I'm a fan, and I've never made any bones about this. Like, I am a fan of mostly the movies. And so these things were great for me to see, but it's great for people that know these things to get those references as well. I think that's a good balance of what we would call fan service. There could be good and bad fan service. I think the show is balancing it out pretty well.
I think you're balancing it really well. I just want to address the fact that, like, Star Wars is tying their whole universe together in what seems like this one series. We've got references from the novels finally showing up on screen, and characters and plot lines that are subtle details within a whole new universe that's being built. And it feels like this is the way that MCU has created this expansive universe. Star Wars is finally connecting everything together, which they've been in the process of doing this for a while, but it's in a much bigger way now. And I'm pretty excited to see that. And it makes me go, DC, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, we'll see. DC, with the multiverse and everything they've got going on, I think they're on a bit of an upswing. I hope that they're on a bit of an upswing. But I agree with the fact that, they tried to do that with Solo and Darth Maul, and that really kind of annoyed me. But I think they're doing it better here because it seems more motivated. It doesn't just seem like you're kind of dropping this thing in to make people go like, oh, Darth Maul. There seems to be a reason behind it. Which is why I'm giving the whole Boba Fett reveal a little more leeway because I'm hoping that this is going to have some meaningful tie to the actual character and the show itself. Because if you bring Boba Fett back and he has a great role to play in this show, then that's great. But you always worry about the fact that you're going to bring Boba Fett back to pop on screen and be like, hello, I'm Boba Fett, and then leave. And that's when I get annoyed because it seems a little cynical.
Yeah, that there is the slight concern in my head that it's literally just going to be like, well, that was it. That was Boba Fett. We go like 9 more episodes and we're like, what happened with that back there? I know. Yeah. Yale, I know you're so into The Mandalorian. So what did you think about the child?
I specifically have not watched the premiere. I'm going to wait till the season ends. I will.
Then we've ruined the whole thing for you, Yale. I'm
so
sorry.
Not at all. Haven't ruined a single thing.
No, it's a running joke that, like, I'm really into this show and Yale's just kind of like,
I'll watch it when it's over. I'll watch the whole thing. I would say binge, but I'm going to just let it play.
There you go. And before we move on to my next recommendation, I just have to remind everyone that the child is adorable. Don't forget it. The eyes. This is the most advanced puppet I've ever seen them make. It's incredible.
It's a great puppet.
If you don't have Disney Plus, if you don't like Star Wars, if that is not your jam, I'm sorry for the last excited 6 minutes of your life. But Apple TV Plus dropped Sofia Coppola's On the Rocks. This is a new film starring Bill Murray. It is exactly what you would expect from a Coppola-style production. It's very anticlimactic. It's just telling of a story, but Bill Murray sells this movie for me.
On a different note, I have fallen down a Nexium hole. That's right. I watched all of The Vow over on HBO Max. I highly recommend watching The Vow if you are interested at all with Nexium, if you don't know what that is, it is a cult that the leader just got sentenced to 120 years in prison for trafficking women and all sorts of other things. I highly recommend The Vow over on HBO Max to really get a story. They have a lot of footage because for whatever reason they decided to record everything the way that they did on Tiger King. So you're going to go, why is this phone call recorded? Because they're weird. And it's wonderful. So I would check that out. On what's worth skipping, again, Nexium Hole. Do not watch Lifetime's Beyond the Headlines Nexium episode over on Hulu. It's not great. If you've seen The Vow, you definitely don't need to see that one. I'll tell you probably next week I'm going to have 2 more recommendations for Nexium.
So our series now has just become The Mandalorian and Nexium, just so you guys know. Just kidding. That actually takes us into our headlines, though. We've got some exciting news from Apple TV Plus.
Yes. Okay. So Kaylee Cuoco, whom you probably know from The Big Bang Theory and hopefully know as the current cartoon voice of Harley Quinn, has a new project on Apple TV Plus. It is a live action comedy called America's Sweethearts. She's going to be producing it, and it's from the Warner Brothers creators of Harley Quinn. But don't worry, she's still going to be doing the voice of Harley Quinn for the 3rd season.
Yeah, so besides doing America's Sweetheart and Harley Quinn, and then she's got The Flight Attendant coming on HBO Max too. This woman is working.
Yes, I love that she is
Speaking of Apple TV Plus, Ted Lasso got renewed for another season. Now you're probably going, didn't you announce this a few weeks ago? No, it got renewed for the 3rd season. So it got a 2nd season renewal and a 3rd season renewal. That's impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, if it'd be on Netflix, it'd be a 3rd and final season. So I'm glad that they might have maybe next week they'll pick it up for season 4.
Are you a Ted Lasso fan?
I've not seen it. No,
Oh.
I just know that that most shows, if you're on Netflix, you get to season 3 and you may as well call that season finale your series finale. So here's hoping that Ted Lasso has better luck. Apple TV Plus is one of those services I don't have. I have not yet tried Apple TV Plus, but I do like Jason Sudeikis.
If you do go there.
What's that?
I said Ted Lasso is a great series if you do go there.
I've heard a lot of good things about Ted Lasso, and yeah, I am a big fan of Jason Sudeikis on SNL, and then stuff he's done in movies. He was in a movie with Anne Hathaway called Colossal that I thought he was great in, and so I may have to venture in and try do a trial or something of Apple TV Plus and watch several things because they got some interesting. They had Greyhound. They got some interesting stuff on there.
Yeah. Let's head into Disney Plus. Leaks are suggesting that Fortnite and Disney are collaborating to give players 2 months of Disney Plus for free. I had not heard anything about this. I know most people, I feel like, have Disney Plus already in some shape or form. We talked about previously the different ways you can get it. How do we feel about Fortnite teaming up with Disney?
This is a really smart move for them. There are a lot of people that still don't have Disney Plus, and this is a great way to bring gamers in. There's a lot of people that honestly have been cutting their subscriptions down during the pandemic as well. I was like, so that really, I just see this as a power move to get more people to watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's probably, it might be a good marketing thing, and I don't know the source of these rumors, but it's hard for me to believe that Disney would be giving away anything for free at this point. I would imagine they would want to maximize. They've been doing
this a lot with Disney Plus, though. Like Verizon subscribers got everything for a year for free and whatnot. Like they were just really ramping up subscriptions on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but a year ago, Disney was like throwing money out the window. They're like, we've got too much of this stuff. Here, take some of it. Now it's like they're getting in the gutter. They're vacuuming up every dollar they can find. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
I guess that they'd been selling face masks for $5 a piece, and they just upped the price to $10 a piece at Disney. Like that's where we're getting with Disney.
Yeah, I mean, is Fortnite the audience that doesn't know about Disney Plus? I mean, it'd be more like my great aunt, maybe. Maybe you should try to sell it to my Uncle Bobby out in the country.
AARP member.
How would we sell it to your Uncle Bobby?
If you just ran the Ballad of Cable Hogue 24/7, he would buy it in a second.
All right then.
Over on Hulu, we've got some news. Betsy Brandt is joining Love Victor for a recurring role in season 2. And Castle Rock was canceled after a 2nd season. Let's head over to Netflix. Oh, Netflix.
'Cause first, let's preface this Netflix news by going, this is what the pandemic needed right now.
Yeah, they're raising prices. Netflix is raising the standard up to $14 and premium tier up to $18 a month. They're getting to a point where we're going to go, I don't really need Netflix.
Except for the fact that they've got 40 plus originals dropping every week, it feels like, and it's still more of the content I want to watch than anywhere else. But at some point I'm going to be like, I feel like if this pattern continues with Netflix, because they're now getting to the place of, we've been throwing money out the window for so long, we need to start recouping our expenses. If they're going to put that on the subscribers and this becomes $40 a month, goodbye. Like, not going to happen. Maybe stop making 7,000 productions.
That's what a few years ago, the last several years, a lot of times we talk about Netflix, I would say, like, I don't understand how, like, I understand they're successful, but have you seen this debt? How does this work? And then people say, like, well, you don't know how business works. But it seems like I might have kind of known how business works, because they're canceling more shows, especially shows that they don't own, stuff like the stuff for Marvel, even stuff like Glow that people really liked. So it's not necessarily about it wasn't a good show anymore, because people loved Glow and they canceled it, they said, because of the pandemic, but you could delay a season, you don't have to cancel a show. Yeah. So they're canceling more programming, they're losing, hemorrhaging programming, because it's all going out to everyone's own individual streaming services. They haven't had an original takeoff in a little while, certainly not to the degree of a Stranger Things or a House of Cards. And they are choosing the worst economic crisis, and at least since 2008, right now, to raise their prices. So not great timing, I think.
I mean, they do have The Witcher. Everyone's stoked about that still. I was like, and then I do think The Trial of the Chicago 7 will win most of the awards this year.
Or next year, or in 2022. It hasn't
taken off in like a Stranger Things kind of global way, but it will be award worthy.
Whenever those awards may be.
Yeah.
That's our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us, Dan.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'll always come on and talk about, Mando. I'd just be talking about it in this room anyway, whether we were doing the show or not.
And I would just be sitting here doing this.
Well, thank you again to Dan Murrell, who joined us. You can find him on his channel, Dan Murrell Movies, over on YouTube, and of course, All My Movies podcast, the charting king himself. Thank you. Again, everybody, make sure you like this video and subscribe to That Hashtag Show for more content. We'll see you next time.